Hello, and welcome to the Transition Attainment Record, or TAR, training for the 2022-2023 school year. I'm Devin Avery with the Kentucky Department of Education, and I'll be your guide through this training. Please note that once you review this training, there is an administration guide linked on this first slide, as well as a corresponding quiz in the online training system, which must be reviewed and completed prior to administering the TAR. With that, let's begin. Beginning in the 2021-2022 school year, students in the 11th grade taking the TAR for the first time took a version of the TAR written to the new Kentucky academic standards and targets. In 2022-2023, students in the 11th and 12th grades taking the TAR will take the assessment based on the new content standards. Students in grade 14 who did not meet benchmark in 2021 and who do not have an assigned graduation code have the option to take the TAR written to the previous Kentucky assessment standards. This is the final year the TAR will be administered using the previous Kentucky assessment standards. Starting in 2023-2024, all TAR assessments given will be using these new Kentucky academic standards. So let's discuss what the TAR is. It is a rating scale or checklist where the Admissions and Release Committee, ARC, or another team observes the student, takes a body of student work, and assesses specified content using this checklist. The rating will be used to represent the academic portion of the post-secondary readiness at the high school level. The TAR is required to be administered at grade 11. The purpose for it is to be administered in place of the ACT for our students on Kentucky's alternate assessment. Just like the ACT, the TAR assesses students in ELA, math, and science. The items on the TAR are linked to grade level content standards. New benchmarks were set for reading and math in 2022. And currently, the benchmarks for the TAR for grades 11 and 12 are 16 in language arts, 13 in math, and a 16 in science. If a student does not meet benchmark at grade 11, the student can take the TAR again at grade 12. The benchmarks for grade 12 are the same as they are for grade 11. Any student who participates in the TAR at grade 12 must first be registered in the Student Registration Database, or SRD, by your District Assessment Coordinator, DAC, Director of Special Education, DOS, or someone else with district level access. The DAC, DOS, or district level administrator should contact me, Devin Avery, at devin.avery@education.ky.gov and ask to have the grade 12 TAR opened for score entry in the SRD. If a student does not meet benchmark at grade 11 or 12, that student can take the TAR again at grade 14. The benchmarks for grade 14 remain the same as the grade 14 benchmarks last year. Because the new reading and math benchmarks established in 2022 won't go into effect for grade 14 students until the 2023-24 accountability cycle. Any students who participate in the TAR at grade 14 must also first be registered in the SRD by the DAC, DOS, or someone with district level access. Again, the process is the same. The DAC, DOS, or district level administrator should contact me, Devin Avery, and ask to have the grade 14 account opened for your score entry. Please take note that while the TAR is not a standard multiple choice assessment, it's still a state assessment and as a result is considered secure testing material. It is okay to know the concepts and teach the concepts that are on the TAR. However, it's never okay to reproduce your test materials, to share test items with anyone not involved in the administration of the test, or use those exact test items to prepare students for the assessment. Some timelines. The TAR administration opens on Monday, October 3rd, and will close on May 30th, 2023. All scores must be submitted no later than June 2nd, 2023, and that is a firm deadline. The TAR administration training opens on Monday, October 3rd, and closes on March 24th, 2023. To access the TAR, you will need to log into the Online Training System, or OTS, and go to the Transition Attainment Records tab under the Teacher Tools. The TAR administration is conducted by the student's instructional team, which includes personnel familiar with the student and the student's work. This team may include the student's special education teacher, general education teachers from collaborative classes, related service providers, and paraprofessionals. Paraprofessionals can provide valuable information, but they may not score the TAR assessments. One certified lead team member will be responsible for entering the scores in the SRD. However, because the TAR is a state assessment, all team members participating must complete the administration code and inclusion of special populations training. The lead team member will then also complete the online training for the TAR in the OTS, and they have to pass the quiz with a score of 80% or higher. Together, the team should review all of the content standards that are assessed and the sources of documentation of student work. The scoring of the TAR is done by the ARC, or the team associated with the student. The team should work together to determine scores on each item. KDE and UK have provided guidance in the TAR administration guide on how to reach consensus. It's on page 9 of that administration guide. And when team members cannot agree on a performance rating, the lowest rating considered must be used for the scoring purposes. So steps to completing the TAR. First, complete the student interview, and then proceed with the assessment. The team as a group must respond to every item. If there is no source of data for student performance on an item, the team must design an assessment item per the directions in the TAR administration guide on pages 9 and 10. Review the TAR assessment and ensure that all items are complete. The TAR form also has a column where the lead team member will indicate the source of documentation for the student's work performance. The sources of documentation include the ILP, students working folder, such as a due process folder or a classroom working folder. There's a space to indicate if other documentation has been used, and also a place to note that there is no existing documentation and that an assessment item has been designed. Student performance ratings should be established by the team with a common understanding of the items, the standards that the items are assessing, and the scale on how the items will be scored. It's important that all accommodations are followed for the TAR, so providing a means for the student to use their modality of communication to demonstrate skills is vital. This could be pointing, eye gaze, or any number of different communication devices. So the item rating scale for the TAR is a 3-point scale. 0 is used when the student demonstrates no skill or knowledge of understanding the standard. 1 is used when the student is moving towards understanding the standard but needs to be prompted to do so. 2 is used when a student fully understands the standard and can independently address it without the need of prompting. There is further information about these rating scales in the TAR administration guide on page 9. So now we're going to look at some examples of each rating. So on this slide, you'll see an example of a 2 rating. On the item, the student is able to identify the central idea of a text. The team observes that the student independently scores an 80% or higher on work samples and also in the IEP monitoring. Therefore, the student scores a 2 for this item. because they demonstrate the skill independently at 80% or higher. There's also the place for the documentation, which would be the monitoring folder or the student working folder. On this slide, we have a sample rating of 1. In this item, the student is able to identify the scale of a given graph or data display. The team observes that the IEP progress monitoring data show that the student can do this, but only with verbal prompting. Therefore, the student has a rating of 1 for this item because they require prompting, and the documentation is in the student working folder. On this slide, we have a sample rating of a 0. In the item, the student understands that a sailboat is powered by the wind in order to move forward. However, the team had to design an assessment activity, and they observed that the student did not answer any items correctly, even when given prompts. Therefore, the student receives a 0 rating for this item, and the documentation is in the working folder. So, quick review of what we covered and what is expected of you as you move forward to administer the TAR. First, please review the TAR administration guide completely. Once you have reviewed this guide and this training, complete the qualification quiz, earning an 80% or better, and receive your certification, and that's in the online training system. Then download your TAR document, which is under Teacher Tools in the OTS. Complete the student interview, and finally, rate the items as a team. Finishing up, as a reminder, the TAR is open for administration from October 3rd, 2022 to May 30th, 2023. When completing the TAR document, make sure all team members are listed. All team members administering the TAR must complete this training and certification and the OTS by March 24th, 2023. There is a firm deadline of June 2nd, 2023 for TAR score entry into the student registration database. And finally, there is a link on this page for the online training system, OTS, where you will access the TAR quiz to complete your certification. This concludes the TAR administration training. Good luck on the quiz and on the upcoming administration of the TAR. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at 502-564-4394 or at dacinfo@education.ky.gov. Thank you so much for your time and for all you do for our Kentucky students.